Okay, so when we are trying to graph these equations that are a little bit more complicated now, ones that are going to get translated and moved around, we want them to look like this form here. Okay, both for sine and cosine, they're the same. These formulas are in your notes. I want to explain the difference between these two. So please remember that when you have cosine, it's only taking the cosine of whatever is right next to it unless it's in parentheses. So these are two different things. Okay, so if I were trying to look at these as far as these equations would go, the top one, my A would be 5. Okay, my B would be 4. And since it's just 4x inside this piece right here, that would mean my C is 0 because there's nothing being added or subtracted to the x. And this number right here is being added to cosine in the end, so that would actually be my D. Okay, that one would be my D because the D is something that you're not taking the sine or the cosine of. And in this case, because there's parentheses, or there's not parentheses, I'm not taking the sine or cosine of 8. Okay, this one here, I am taking it of 8. So my D, there's nothing being added or subtracted from this at the end. So my D in this one would actually be 0. But this one's a little bit more complicated. In order to find your B, do you see how there's two sets of parentheses here? You have to actually factor your B out. So the second one, 5 cosine, I have to have this start with just an x. So whatever numbers right here, I have to factor out. So I'm going to say take a 4 out. And if I factor a 4 out, that becomes x plus 2. If you want to check to see if that's right, just distribute it back in. 4x and 8. Okay, so for this one, my A would be 5. My B would be 4. My C would be negative 2. Why is it negative 2? Because the formula says minus. So I have to change the sign of this. Okay? And then my D, because there's nothing outside of here, would be 0. Now please remember that you can have your D in a different spot. So if I take the very first one up here, I could write it like this. 8 plus 5 cosine of 4x. This is the same as that. So my D is still 8 for that one, even if it's in the front. Okay, it's the number that's not being, or is not part of the cosine. You're not taking the cosine of this 8. Okay.